Welcome back, my friends. To anyone who's been feeling the lack of drive, the lack of motivation, the lack of spark, like you just don't care about anything anymore, this is for you. What if it's not the truth that you don't care anymore? What if you've been just caring way too long, way too much about the things that are not so important? And you came to the point where you've just released all of that, and you're not familiar with the feeling of how it is to be a bit more careless. It doesn't truly mean to be mindless. It just means that maybe you've been just trained and habitually programmed to care way too much about so many things. And you came to the point where everything became meaningless because maybe it is meaningless. Maybe there's way higher meaning for your life than these small things that you've been told you should care about. Like, we're living in such an incredible time, but also a very challenging time because so much is changing. And so many people are just questioning everything right now. Questioning their jobs, their education, their teachings, their knowledge, their understanding of life. But because there's all the knowledge now available to us, all the information that's now available to us, we have access to esoteric teachings that a few years ago was not available to public. A lot of it was not available to public. We have access to all kinds of spiritual teachings, spiritual philosophies. We have access to psychology, to greatest psychological tools. We have access to a lot of the truth, what is happening in the world, in government systems, and overall in the matrix. So there's a lot of new stuff to think about. But at the same time, we also need to handle our own life. So, if you've been feeling like you don't have any drive anymore, you don't have any motivation anymore, your life has no meaning anymore, you're not alone, my friend. You're not alone. So many people are experiencing that. I've been, questioning my life many times in my life, and in recent months, I've been thinking a lot about this. I've been thinking a lot about how times changed. Like, I don't feel the same that I felt a few years ago. There's just so much more happening right now. If you go on the internet, on social media, a lot has changed. But also when you go into the world, people have changed, right? After COVID, have you noticed that, people have changed? Some people became so disconnected that it's hard for some to communicate with one another. Some people feel so disconnected that it's hard for them to express themselves. And, the world has changed. So if you're feeling strange, firstly, accept that. It's completely okay. But then also know that it's a sign that your mind requires a declutter. Your mind requires a declutter. I'm an artist, and I'm a painter. Painting helped me to understand that inspiration doesn't come from thinking. It comes when I stop thinking. And to stop thinking is not an easy act. We kind of need to distract our analytical mind with something that's fun, that's playful, that's just, that reminds us of our childhood years. Like, sometimes I just go into the nature for a long walk, and I get immersed in the beauty, in animals, in butterflies. I just observe the trees, the mountains. I just came from the place where I've been swimming in a spring water that then turns into a river. Very cold one, very fresh one. But it resets you. So those are the things that help us to go out of thinking and reconnect with the nature of life. If you've lost drive, if you've lost motivation, if you've lost that spark of yours, it's a sign that you need to reconnect with yourself, with your nature, with the nature of you. What is that? Well, there was a time in your life when you knew your nature quite well. You've been a playful kid, or you've been jumping around a little bit, or you've been doing something that was fun to you. There was most probably at least one thing that you found playful to you. And that's when you've been exploring your nature. And then, well, the world told you who you need to be, and you've forgotten who you actually are. And through time, your mind started cluttering with all this ideology and dogma and beliefs and ideas and concepts that you got lost in them. And it happens to all of us. Well, our mind is actually very curious tool that seeks new interesting things that are a bit, maybe shiny. Yeah, our minds look for new things, so that's why we choose to learn, that's why we choose to grow. But when it goes out of control, it becomes like a wild horse. It starts jumping around and just catching new ideas, catching new insights. And nowadays, if you go on social media, it can happen very easily to you. Like, you can just come across so much of new interesting things that you forgot about what life truly is all about. When we are exposed to new information and new things and, everything that's going on, we get cluttered. And it gives us a sense of knowing, a false sense of knowing. Now I know so much because I've heard so much I've read so much. But mind is not alone. Mind has a body. You have a body. Body is a vehicle for experiencing life. And it's not in our nature to experience so much of information at such a short time. Few years ago, we needed to move our bodies quite a lot to experience more information, to experience more knowledge. Now it's just reversed. Now you just turn on the phone and you experience so much. You get easily overstimulated. And because every time you get stimulated by something that's a bit interesting or beautiful or nice, your brain produces dopamine, which gives you a sense of pleasure and some positive emotions. So it gives you a good sense, but through time, well, it becomes too much of it. Nothing stimulates dopamine anymore. And that's when you should actually detach from all these things and information and even knowledge. Because knowledge can only serve you when it's implemented. When it's not implemented, it becomes a distraction and food for your ego. So if you feel a lack of drive, a lack of motivation, it's also possible that you've been just overstimulated, that your mind became too cluttered with too much, and you haven't internalized it and turned it into practical application. But when we start turning something into practice, we recognize we don't need much. We need to simplify our lives. So many times what happens, especially in these days, mind and body go out of balance. And that's when we lose the connection with ourselves. And we start to feel like life is meaningless. Like intellectually, we can know so much, especially if you're into more spiritual philosophies or esoteric philosophies. You may be like, oh, I never die, so what's the point here? Or you may be like, well, I will transcend all of this, so what's the point doing hard work here? Well, the point is that through movement, you experience the real meaning of life, which you will never find out what it is if you don't explore life. So life is like a river. It flows with a sense of direction, and that's what gives us purpose. When we have purpose in life, we have meaning in life. When we have meaning in life, we feel motivation to strive towards something. When we feel motivation, we'll also feel a sense of need, like this must be accomplished. Not for the sake of accomplishing, but for the sake of learning and growing. So many times we start to feel lost and unmotivated, and we lose a sense of drive, and we lose that spark of ours because we became disconnected from ourselves, from our bodies. And to me, it's a sign, hey, disconnect from social media, disconnect from your phone and technology. And maybe when you're done with your work, disconnect from people, disconnect from technology, and reconnect with simplicity of life. So many people I've noticed started completely changing their routines in their lives. Like they've started simplifying their lives. And I'm seeing that here in our community. With many of you writing like you've started doing more workouts again, going back to basics, doing cold showers. Some of you are doing cold plunges. Some of you are meditating more, doing more yoga, more slow movements and things like that. This is the simplicity of life, right? In the complexity of all this information, well, sometimes we truly discover the truth when we disconnect from it. Like I said, I just came from the place. I've been swimming in that spring water. And before that, I've been meditating on a very incredible rock. So I've been meditating there, and it was such a beautiful scenery because from right and left side, there were two different streams of water. So you had this white sound that the river produces in the left and right ear. And it was so therapeutic. And when I've been meditating there, I was like, we truly don't need much to reconnect like this. And to me, it's just another lesson, and I'm doing that frequently. But I want to be connected also with what's happening in the world, so I can be connected with you and to see what is going on, so I can talk about things. But I've noticed that, well, life becomes chaotic if we don't learn to retreat from it. So we learn to go back to basics and remind ourselves what truly matters. Because I've been there before, like I've lost motivation, even for the work that I'm doing for painting and making these videos, helping you and, building this community and taking care of the community. Like, how are you doing, my friends? I've been there when I've lost spark, I've lost meaning. Like, why am I doing that? It doesn't make sense. But what helped me to get back into the right state of being was that I returned back into this question, why have I started? Why have I started? And it's not something that you intellectualize. It's something that returns you back into the heart, because I've started all of that because I love you, because I love humanity. Because there was something I've experienced in my past that awakened me to a deeper love. It's just the best word I can use. To a love for life. Like I went from just chasing something and proving myself to someone and seeking some attention or validation, to just loving life and then sharing this love for life with others and helping others to experience what I've experienced. And when I return back to this reason of my heart, I find the answer where the real meaning truly comes from. It doesn't come from the mind. I've actually noticed in my most challenging times that I can't outthink the problem. I actually need to move out of the thinking. So sometimes I go on my bike, and sometimes I just paint, or sometimes I just meditate to come up with solutions that will resolve something that seems like a challenge. So it's like returning back to why we've started, but then also understanding the importance of balance between consuming and creating. Because in your deep nature, you are a creator, but you learn through consuming. So if you want to grow, you need to learn. But if you're learning, you will remember by creating, by expressing, right? So psychology says that what we learn in the next 7 days, 75% of it we forget if we don't use it, if we don't implement it. But if we choose to repeat it and talk about it and share it, well, we can remember 50% of it. And if we keep sharing it and keep repeating it, keep studying it, keep sharing it, well, we can remember 90% of it, or maybe even everything. And that's where neuroplasticity truly comes into place. Brain starts changing. The great computer you have here, the greatest technology that exists is your brain, my friend. You start reshaping it, rewiring it by expressing yourself. So don't get lost in overstimulation, consuming too much. Also express yourself. You will notice that many times when you feel like there's no meaning anymore, there's no drive anymore, you just need to talk with someone or be of some kind of service. Like sometimes just go somewhere and help someone. Maybe a granny to walk past the street, or to carry the groceries, or something simple. Because it's easy to think life is meaningless when we are in our minds. But sometimes you can use what you know and help someone who doesn't have what you have. And it returns you back into what this life truly is all about. You see, you haven't learned all these things just to make your mind more cluttered. Use it, and that will give a great meaning to your life. Don't bottle it up what you know. When I was at my darkest phase in my life, when I was broke and me and Mai were sleeping in our car and we've been thinking what we'll do with our lives. At some point, after all these dark days, we came to the point that we said, we know so much and we are here broke. Let's learn how can we use our knowledge to help someone. And that's how we will free ourselves. And that's what we did. And yeah, it took us some time, but it worked. So, my friend, the first thing you need to know when you feel life is meaningless and you have lost motivation and drive is that your mind is maybe too cluttered, and reorganize your life. Simplify it. Detach from the chaos. And spend more time in nature. Like, we just have a beautiful sunrise, the reflection of the sunrise behind of us. Reconnect with these simple things. Start doing some creative work where you start expressing yourself. Then extend it to public. Start doing it in public or sharing it with other people. Connect with other people. Because when we connect with others, it's like we expand our brain, or we can share what we know with others, or we can listen what other people have to share with us. And it just creates a, beautiful experience out of life. And then return also back to this childlike playfulness that at some point you are very good at. And it will remind you what this life truly is all about. Explore it. Because to me, it changed my life. When I returned back to my inner artist that I was when I was a little kid, my life turned around. Everything flipped around, and I've started living my life to the fullest, and I've started doing what I'm doing today, 8 years ago. So this is the simple thing that will change your life completely. Mind wants new glittering things and new interesting information, but it's like a crazy horse, as I said. You must be in control of your mind. You must give a sense of direction to yourself so you can flow like a river. That will give you a sense of purpose, and you will know a river at some point arrives to the ocean. You will arrive to your goals. At some point you will. And you will meet all your dreams and manifestations, and all of that will happen. And you will notice that it was all worth it. But I understand sometimes we just need more time and wait a little bit so things and chaos and whatever is going on inside of us can settle, and we can get more in peace with ourselves once again. So I hope this video can help you with that you found some value. And I want to say big thanks to all of you who are choosing to support my art, my paintings, by buying my work on AttractPassion.com, or the link in the description of this video. By supporting my work, you are also helping this mission, and therefore you're part of this service. So thank you so much. I'm creating art that supports this journey, that can remind you of what truly matters. So go and check it out. Which painting resonates with you? You can find prints of my art, original paintings. Prints are in different sizes, more affordable, so check it out. And also thanks to anyone for joining our Patreon community for more exclusive content. Join us there. The link is in the description of this video as well. And till next time, one love.